Disagreements. Deandra. It took me a week to find the perfect lawyer. Someone who I was pretty sure wouldn't get back to my mom. I knew that the task of drawing up a contract for Keisha and me was one that required the utmost discretion. In order to ensure the utmost privacy needed, I took my time to find the best lawyer to draw up the perfect contract. After careful research and discreet inquiries, I was now sitting across Mr. Thompson in a quiet, dimly lit office. As I soon found out, Mr. Thompson was a man of few words, which made him even more perfect. As we sat down, he leaned forward, his eyes sharp with curiosity. "Mr. McCarthy, you mentioned that this matter requires the highest level of confidentiality." I nodded in agreement. "It doesn't go beyond these walls." He smiled confidently. "Well, let me assure you, anything discussed here remains confidential," he assured me. I nodded again, my hands resting on the polished surface of his desk. "I appreciate your understanding, Mr. Thompson. Let's get into it then." I sat up. "What I need is a contract drawn up that outlines an unconventional arrangement. A marriage of convenience." Mr. Thompson's eyebrow rose slightly, a glint of intrigue in his eyes. "Marriage of convenience?" he asked with a smile tugging at his lips. "That's an interesting proposition. Could you provide me with the details?" For the next hour, I tried to give Mr. Thompson the details he needed for the contract, like the financial incentives, security for both parties, and rules that would make it work. In his eyes, I could see his mind whirring as he processed the information. "I think I have all I need now," he finally said. "I can draft the contract for you that I think you'd like." I exhaled a quiet sigh of relief. "Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Remember, this is strictly confidential. No one else must know about this." His lips curved into a faint smile. "For the fee you're paying, no one could pry it out of me. You can trust your secret with me. How about we meet back here in a couple of days? I'll give you a call to set up a time when it's done." I stood up, satisfied. "Thank you." I took the hand he offered, shaking him. "I'll be waiting to hear from you, Mr. Thompson." He nodded, and I stepped out of his office. That was done. Now all I needed to do was wait till I got the contract and reach out to Keisha. This was a moment I looked forward to, with a mix of nervousness and eagerness. A few days later. The cafe was buzzing with the sound of conversation and clinking dishes, but none of that was loud enough to distract me. As I waited in the quaint cafe, anticipation and nerves were twisting my gut. I wondered how she was able to make me nervous so easily. No girl ever did. The contract was ready, and I was presenting it to her with Mr. Thompson by my side. My hand rested on the envelope, the written embodiment of our arrangement. I watched the door with racing thoughts. Any moment now she would be walking in. And then there she was. She walked in with a careful grace that easily drew attention. We were easy to spot, and once she did, she walked toward us with calm elegance. "Hey there," she said with a smile for me. I smiled, glad at the hint of familiarity in her voice. I grinned. "Hey babe," I said, matching her energy. "You look rather radiant." She chuckled, then sat across from me. "Starting with babe already, I see. You sure know how to charm the ladies." Before I could reply, Mr. Thompson cleared his throat. I turned to him. I had forgotten he was there. "Sorry," I began. "Keisha, this is my lawyer, Mr. Thompson." I introduced him. I thought it would be a great idea to have him here. "Hi," Keisha smiled at him, and he nodded in acknowledgement. "Shall we begin then?" I asked excitedly. Keisha nodded, her gaze shifting to the envelope on the table. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my voice measured as I began explaining the terms in the document. "Mr. Thompson has drawn up the contract, and it covers the financial incentives as well. This contract will help ensure a seamless partnership for us during the time of our marriage." Keisha's gaze was steady, her eyes locked on mine as she listed. I continued to explain the various sections, and when I finished, I slid the envelope toward her, waiting for her reaction. She slowly picked up the envelope and slid out the contract. Mr. Thompson looked on, his demeanor professional yet unobtrusive. "Take your time to review it. I want you to feel comfortable with the terms," I said, my voice calm. Her lips curved into a small smile as she started to read the contract, her eyes scanning the words. Her expression continued to shift as she delved deeper into the pages. I watched her, curious to see her every reaction. She surprised me. Not a lot of ladies would actually take the time to read every page. But here she was, reading every line. "You really did your homework on me, huh?" she quipped, her tone laced with amusement. "Mr. Thompson did." I smiled. He needed to ensure every aspect was covered. She let out a low chuckle. He definitely succeeded. She continued to read carefully, and I took the liberty to order her a drink. Her expression was becoming more serious the deeper she went. When she finally looked up, there was a spark of defiance in her eyes. "Deandra," she began carefully, "there are some parts in here that I'm not feeling at all." I leaned forward, my gaze on her. "What section are you referring to?" Her finger tapped on a paragraph, her expression serious. "Right here. It says I can't travel without your permission during the period of this marriage. Am I a prisoner?" I tried to reply, but Keisha was on a roll. Her gaze moved to another section, her finger tracing the line. "And this part about attending all social events together. What am I? Your arm candy?" I chuckled. "Of course not, Keisha. The idea is that we maintain the appearance of a happy, loving couple. You're basically saying I can't travel without your say, so I have to follow you to any event and I can't work." I nodded, my tone gentle but firm. "Yes, I think it's pretty reasonable." She chuckled and leaned back in her chair, disbelief in her eyes. "Reasonable? I think the word you're looking for is controlling." I smiled, refusing to let this become an issue. "I get why it might be a sticking point for you, but it's important for the image we're creating. You're a cosmetologist, Keisha. You cannot continue that when you marry me." She folded her arm. "I don't care if you're a big shot, Deandra. I don't like being told what to do. These sections are not sitting well with me, and I can't sign without them being removed." "We can't take them out," I insisted. She met my gaze, her eyes flashing with determination. "This needs to work for both of us, unless you no longer want this." Her words hung in the air, a challenge. I sat back and chuckled to myself. How could the demure woman I knew be the same feisty woman sitting in front of me? Her determination was both challenging and admirable. "So what are you saying, Keisha?" I threw the challenge back at her, daring her to say the words. She crossed her arms. "Let me make this clear then. I won't sign if you don't take out those parts." I held her gaze and she stared back, unwilling to look away. The cafe's low hum of chatter formed the backdrop of our staring contest. Her gaze was direct, her resolve unwavering. I had to give in. "Okay, let's try a compromise," Mr. Thompson cut in, feeling the tension. "Let's discuss the sections you're uncomfortable with and see if we can compromise." Keisha turned to him, willing to discuss. She leaned forward, her lips quirked into a half-smile. "First of all, my work is my passion, my livelihood. I won't be giving that up just because I'm becoming a wife." "With the payout, you won't even have to work," I stated, exasperated. "I would give you a monthly allowance." "And what am I supposed to do all day? Sit at home and wait for my darling husband?" Her tone was laced with sarcasm. I ignored the sarcasm and leaned in, my voice earnest. "You can go back to work after the marriage, Keisha." "You working?" would raise some eyebrows. Her eyes narrowed, a glimmer of challenge in her gaze. "So what you're saying is, my job is too shameful for the almighty Deandra?" I chuckled, and tried to add a bit of humor to the conversation. "Of course not. People would just talk, and we need this to appear as real as possible." She tilted her head, her brain at work. "All right," she finally accepted, "but the whole travel with your consent thing. I'm not a child. You can't tell me when I can travel, when I can't, and with whom I can travel with." I met her gaze evenly, my tone measured. "It's not about treating you like a child. It's about maintaining open communication." Keisha leaned away from me. "You're not going to be telling me where I can and can't go. I will not accept that." "How about we rephrase it?" Mr. Thompson interjected again. "Instead of traveling with his consent, we could simply add that you inform him of any travels you plan to make." She let out a deep sigh. "I guess I could go with that." Mr. Thompson smiled and sat back again, happy to be of use. I wondered how this conversation would have gone without his presence. "See," she turned to me. "Mr. Thompson here gets it. I could see an amused smile tugging at her lips. I smiled in spite of myself. She was so infuriating. Then she went and smiled, and I forgot how annoyed she just made me. "But we're not done," she said, biting her lips to hide the smile. I grinned. "I figured as much." She grinned back. "The social events thing. Look, Deandra, I'm not saying I won't attend events with you, but I won't be your shadow, trailing you everywhere." I chuckled. "I wouldn't even want you as a shadow. Can we find a way to balance your independence with the expectations, please? If we don't show up to events together, people will get suspicious." Her expression softened, and I saw a hint of compromise in her gaze. "Maybe we could agree to a certain number of events." I nodded, eager to reach an agreement. "That sounds fair." "Then that's all," she smiled and picked up her drink. "Thank you for ordering for me." Mr. Thompson picked up the contract and slipped it back into the envelope, standing up. "I'll finalize the changes and get back to you, Mr. McCarthy." "Okay then." I stood up and shook his hand. "Thank you for being here." He nodded and then turned to Keisha with a smile. "It was nice to meet you, Ms. Morris." She smiled brightly at him, and he smiled back. I thought about how he never smiled that brightly with me. We watched him walk away, and then I turned back to her to find her gaze already on me. Her lips curled into a playful smile. "Scared yet?" I laughed. "You'd have to dish out more than that, Keisha." "So what next?" "Once you sign." I picked up my cup of coffee and took a sip, then returned my gaze to her. "You get to meet your future mother-in-law." "Can't wait." She flashed a genuine smile, and I had to chuckle at that. "Careful what you wish for, Keisha," I thought to myself.